What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to another trade recap. Today I took one trade. It was a loss. I had the right bias, just the execution itself and the the trade management in terms of the stop loss placement wasn't correct. So I'll be diving into that. And in terms of the top down analysis, I'll do that first here. So going into the week, since today is Monday, I was leaning more bullish. Now, last week I was actually leaning more bearish because we had this unfilled weekly BISI here with these relative equal lows below them that I thought we could rebalance to before going higher. But just judging by how this last weekly candle closed here and respected this order block, I could see us, possibly continuing higher and then maybe leaving this as just another breakaway gap, or just sweeping this high again, then finally going back to it, right? So, and in terms of the daily, what stuck out to me and what really made me more bullish is on NQ. We were holding this daily SIBI here, whereas with ES we had inversed it. So I didn't really see this as a bearish SMT. I just saw this as ES being the stronger asset, which would make NQ stronger since they're paired assets, right? You could see this as a bearish SMT up here if you go in a lower time frame, right? There's technically an SMT up here, but the only SMT I would really care about is if we put in an SMT at all-time highs. Because if there was no SMT here and you were just looking at ES and you saw that this SIBI got inverse, you'd probably just assume that we're going to go to this next high, right? And anything below that is kind of just an intermediate term high that if we do SMT, doesn't really matter. So I faded that, and I just saw us inversing this on ES as strength. Now, going down to the 4 hour, where there's really not much to go off in terms of the 4 hour and the 1 hour. In terms of before the morning session had started, let me mark out open here. We hadn't even put in any type of 4 hour order block, CISD. There's no 4 hour displacement to the upside. We've just been selling off back into this 4 hour BISI here. So there wasn't really no external model or higher time frame, market maker buy model in play in terms of the 4 and the 1 hour, which is what I usually like to align my trades off of. So I was already just more cautious because of that, because there's no higher time frame confirmation besides us, just holding this BISI here. And even with us holding this BISI, I wasn't sure going to open if we wanted to possibly rebalance to 50% of this little range here, or perhaps we want to bottom out up here and then continue higher, which price could do that if it wants to. We don't always have to go back to equilibrium. So going into the day, I was mainly just basing my bias off of lower time frame order flow, mainly just the 5 minutes. So I was just kind of seeing what pre-market was doing and seeing if we were forming like a buy model of sorts up to some type of buy side that we could target during the 9:30 open to 11 kill zone. So what I was mainly looking at here, going to the open. So here's 9:30. I have the blue marked out as the blue line. We had this SMT, where was it? Right here. SMT right here. We have a CISD up here. This down close candle after it gets closed above. And then we have a 5 minute BISI that gets opened up. Right, so we can see that there's a market maker buy model on the 5 minute being put into play. And then what stuck out to me was these relative equal highs that aligned with 50% of this new dealing range. Now, the reason why I marked this out specifically in terms of looking at any highs up here is because, like I was saying earlier, there was no higher time frame confirmation. There's no higher time frame model pointing at us going higher. We were just retracing back into this 4 hour BISI. So I wanted to be more conservative with my buy side targets, because for all we know, we could still go up to 50%, take out these relative equal highs, and reject from, there's a 30-minute SIBI right here. Yeah, we could reject from this 30-minute SIBI and just go lower, because like I was saying, there's no higher time frame confirmation of us being in a buy program. At least there wasn't at open, right? So I just want to be more cautious and conservative with the buy side targets because of that. So going into open, like I was saying, we had that 5 minute BISI SMT. So basically your smart money reversal going into a buy model here. I want to see this 5-minute gap get inversed going into open. And in terms of that Judah swing, I didn't mind if we wanted to just Judah swing into this 5-minute gap, soup this low, and continue higher. Or since we are technically still high in premium of this range, it's completely permissible for price to come down and resweep these lows that got SMT'd and then just go off from there, right? Just understanding how 930 likes to manipulate. So going into 930 here, if we go on the 1 minute, we wick higher here, taking out this minor buy side, and we get this drop lower. Now, at this point, I was looking at this gap right here, which is the one I took my entry off of. And I entered off the inversion right up here. Now, my stop loss was about 35 points down here. And the reason for that is, ideally, if you're taking an inversion, you want to see 50% of it get respected. And if we drag out the fib from here to here, this entire range from high to low, after price trades all the way back up through it, this should become a balanced price range. Or actually this high, after it trades above this high, this should become a balanced price range and price should not return to it. So I was anticipating right after my entry, we'd just sweep this minor high and this would become a balanced price range and we would just take off without even returning to it. So that's why I put my stop loss where I put it. Now obviously that didn't happen and I was wrong here. And we didn't take out that high and we went right down. Even in that scenario though, I still would want to see 50% of this gap hold. But I think that's just me demanding a bit too much from the market and I have to be okay with, you know, price doing what it wants to do and having a bit of a deeper retrace, which is what happened here. So I got stopped out. It goes maybe like 4 or 5 points from this swing low. It stays intact and then we take off to, at first, this high and these other highs up here. And as you can see, if you caught that, this target of mine that aligned with 50% was only like 0.7 R. So my original take profit plan was just to go break even once we took that out and hold for like a higher target up here, right? And be completely okay with getting stopped out after that. So yeah, that's really the trade. The idea was completely valid. We were long biased today, so I'm really happy with being able to have a correct top-down analysis of the day and have the correct narrative and bias, because that's really what I care about. It's like 80% narrative, 20% of your actual entry, right? So I'm happy with that. Just, you know, really sad, not really sad, but just a little upset with the stop loss management there, which is completely okay. Just was demanding a bit too much. I think recently with this August PA, it's definitely been best to just have that stop loss at the swing low. Based on my data, it does work majority of the time when you put your stop loss below the gap of the inverse. But obviously in price conditions like this where it can chop for a bit, it's always safest to have your stop at the swing low, which I think from now on out, I'm making it a rule from now on out just to set my stop at that swing low. It's better safe than sorry, right? Because the worst feeling, sure you guys know this, is if you get stopped out of a trade and it just runs without you and you knew you could have put a safer stop, which is exactly what happened today. But you know, it is what it is. It's a beautiful learning lesson to learn from, right? Which I will be doing. And yeah, that's the trade recap for today. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day and I will see you guys in the next one.